Hey everyone, welcome back to my new channel. So in this channel, basically, I'll be talking about tech, programming, and really building some cool projects as well, and a little bit of tech here and there. And overall, just to know about me, I'm a mobile app developer. I've been making apps for the past 4 years. I've had experience working with Flutter, React Native, and basically I work with hybrid technologies. And I've been making multiple apps throughout my experience and career. This video, I would like to talk about why I pick Flutter over React Native and why I think you should too. So the first reason why I picked Flutter over React Native is because Flutter is more versatile. What do I mean by that? Well, because Flutter isn't just a mobile app. So it doesn't just make mobile apps, it also runs iOS, Android, just like React Native, but also it supports others like Linux desktop, Windows desktop, and Mac OS as well. And also it supports web. Well, it's really helpful having all this multi-platform just running through one code base, because it lets you know and test your application before you actually deploy it. Because mostly I work with startups and I mostly make apps for myself, so it tells me where are my users, and I don't have to keep on making different versions of each of the code for each different platform. So you build once and you deploy to many, and it helps you know where your users are, even helps you to understand a little bit about your project. Okay, so when it comes to the second reason why I prefer Flutter is because of mainly it's the way it renders UI. So Flutter uses Skia, it used to use Skia, and Skia basically renders the Flutter components as the same look in each platform, meaning that it's going to look very consistent in each platform, be it iOS, be it Android, be it Windows even, it's going to look almost the same. But when it comes to React Native, it's instead of doing that, it renders natively. So that means it might have different inconsistent looks when it comes to Android or iOS. This is more subjective depending on what type of application you're making. If you want to have it more native to the platform, then sure, React Native is the way. But for me, most likely I work with Flutters because I like to have the same component for each platform. So when I'm making apps for iOS and Android, I like them to look almost the same and be operating the same way. So the third reason is more of a personal, or just more of what I've experienced throughout developing for React Native and Flutter. So as I've said, I've developed for both, and one thing I noticed is Flutter has better, smoother animations. So Flutter renders more natively when it comes to these animations and transitions, while React Native uses JavaScript Bridge to render this animations and transitions, making it less smooth compared to Flutter. So I would say, like, based on my personal experience, I prefer Flutter because it has much smoother animations and transitions, and it just makes that better user experience when we're making applications. Not only that, but Flutter can also be rendered by GPU accelerated rendering, so it makes it much faster as well. And most Flutter components or widgets are rendered 60 frames per second. Most of them run in that way, where it's rendered quite well compared to React Native. So that's one of the reasons why I prefer that. Coming to the fourth reason, it's mainly because of debugging. So when it comes to React Native, as you know, if you're a React Native dev working in Expo and others, the errors are not descriptive. They're very cryptic and don't have that much detail in them, and this makes debugging very daunting. And as a person who has dabbled in both Flutter and React Native, Flutter seems much better when it comes to debugging. It gives you more clear reasons for the errors, or it gives you like places where the errors might have occurred. It just gives you a little bit more detail when it comes to debugging, and this makes my life building an apps much more better because I am able to understand where the code error is happening and how I can fix it. So On the code side, React Native is a little bit more cryptic when it comes to errors, and the errors are not that descriptive. And also, Flutter has dev tools, which makes it much easier when debugging and understanding your code. So, for example, I'm able to understand how long is it taking for this widget to render, and how long would I am able to actually see the actual usage of each of the application. So for example, if it's the GPU rendering time of the CPU, and how it's handling the actual app build. So it just gives you more detail when it comes to debugging and understanding your app. Last but not least, if you ever have to upgrade your React Native app project to the latest version, you know the feeling of the highly coupledness of React Native applications when it comes to packages. So React Native is very dependent on third-party package, and this makes it very hard to deal with migration or upgrading your current React Native application to the latest build or basically version. So this makes it very hard to handle your application, and also trying to fix the bugs is just very it's gruesome. When it comes to Flutter, it has a more mature, stable ecosystem when it comes to this package. So we have pub.dev, where multiple dependencies and packages where you can just find what you want, and each one of them will have like a change log and their versions laid out in a much better manner. Even though React Native has that when it comes to the npm package, it's just not that intuitive. It's not it's quite riskful because it's very dependent. So anything that might happen to go wrong, it's just going to break your system, your application basically. And that's one of the last reasons why I prefer Flutter. Well, even though I've said all these good things about Flutter and React Native, it's not just ones and zeros where it's like Flutter's better and React Native is obviously not good. Each one of them have their different scenarios. So there are some scenarios where I prefer React Native more than Flutter. One of the reasons why I use React Native over Flutter is firstly when dealing with simple applications. So when I'm trying to make simple and native applications, be it Android or iOS, I mainly like to work with React Native because it provides you that native components. It makes it feel much more suitable to those platforms as well, because it makes it much more aesthetic of the actual platform. So be it iOS or Android, you'll feel more at home with working with React Native on those components. And the second reason is if you have an experience with JavaScript, if you've made web applications or any other applications using JavaScript, you'll feel at home while working with React Native. And it's a much more easier learning path when coming to React Native. So it's much better when it comes to that way. So it's kind of easier to start. But even though considering all these scenarios where we use React Native, Flutter still wins for me when it comes to scalability, performance, and UI control. Flutter is much more better than React Native. So just in overall conclusion, I prefer Flutter. It's much better experience, much faster, it's much more fun to build with because you can modify the components however you want. Like the UI is much more pleasing to work with when it comes to Flutter. And also that it's just more enjoyable. So those are the reasons I prefer Flutter. And if you have any questions or if you have any comments that you'd like to tell me about your React Native or Flutter experience, feel free to tell them on the comment section below. And this is my first video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be posting more interesting project videos, be it Flutter or React Native or anything you'd want. So I've also worked with web, so we can do those type of projects as well. So yeah, be sure to comment down below and like and subscribe.